Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Bucket Discussions podcast, the channel, man. Yo, whatever you want to call it. I know it has been some time since I have been on here to have another episode of Jay Coops Clips. And the last episode I do believe that I have made was when the Clippers lost Game 3 to the Dallas Mavericks, man, in a terrible, terrible fashion. I believe that was the last game that Kawhi Leonard ended up playing the whole postseason, and then the Clippers went on to get eliminated in 6 games, which I actually did make a video about, but at the time I was having some technical difficulties with my MacBook, and I wasn't really able to get the video uploaded. I think I tried at least 3 or 4 separate times, and it would not upload. It was like a 25 to 30 minute video, so I don't know what the hell happened, but we're back here now, man. I know it's been quite some time, probably a month and a half, 2 months since I've hopped on here. And here we are, man, in the NBA Finals, where the Dallas Mavericks, the people that beat us in the first round, are on in the finals to play the Boston Celtics, the best team in the NBA all season. But in this video, man, I just want to talk about, you know, my favorite team real quick. And I'm not going to make it too long just because we do have an NBA Finals going on, but at the end of the day, this is my favorite team, the Los Angeles Clippers. And I kind of just want to talk about some of the news that's been going on with them and some of the speculation that's been going on with, you know, them and Paul George. So without further ado, man, let's get straight into this video. So as I mentioned, man, the NBA Finals are going on, but we're going to go ahead and talk about my favorite team, the Los Angeles Clippers, real quick. And I feel like the biggest question in this video, at least just to you guys and the viewers that are watching this, is should the Clippers re-sign Paul George? And I will give my personal opinion here later at the end, closer to the end of the video, but I kind of just want to go over a couple of things that's going on, you know what I'm saying? Because I've been listening to a lot of podcasts. There's definitely a lot of speculation about Paul George potentially signing a max contract with us, or may not, just because it's taken so long to get the negotiation situated. Like, we could have signed him, I believe, sometime in, you know, midway through just last season. So we could have had him re-signed, ready to go for the next couple years a while ago, a couple months ago. But it has taken quite some time, and we still have not, you know, found an answer to if Paul George is coming back to the Clippers. So I was listening to the Brian Windhorst podcast today, and they were talking a little bit about it going into Game 5 of the NBA Finals, just something, you know, miscellaneous they were talking about. But so right here, what it says in this article from Bleacher Report, which I'm going to read to you guys real quick, is basically just talking about Paul George, or Brian Windhorst's opinions about Paul George and some of the speculation that he's picked up and heard around the league. So yeah, man. But in this article right here, it says the Los Angeles Clippers all-star Paul George is reportedly expected to test free agency after failing to reach a long-term extension with the Clippers during the season. So right here is what Brian Windhorst says, but it says, so he's been under contract negotiations with the Clippers for months. No deal. And I think he is likely headed into free agency, ESPN's Brian Windhorst said on Get Up. The question really is this: will they give him a max contract? I don't think they want to. They didn't give Kawhi a max contract, and there's a couple teams out there, mainly the 76ers, who have max cap space that would be interested, I suspect. At the end of the day, the Clippers actually believe that they would lose Paul George if they don't sign him to a max. I think they pay up. So for basically what Brian Windhorst is saying right here is, like, if he, you know, the Clippers, I feel like they're kind of trying to, you know, test his bluff, you know what I'm saying? They're trying to call his bluff, basically, Paul George, and basically saying also what it says here in this article is that basically the Clippers are trying to, you know, call his bluff because they don't think that Paul George is actually willing to leave Los Angeles, the team and the city that he chose to came to from Oklahoma back in 2019, to go to a place like Philadelphia or Orlando. And I will say, as someone that has been to Orlando multiple times, man, it really is not a bad place. Now, granted, I've never been to LA, so I really could not compare the two, but I will say, man, from my experience for being in Orlando, Florida, man, it really is a beautiful place. So I don't really understand that statement. Like, I get, you know, maybe Philadelphia, I've been there too, Pennsylvania. It's very, very cold. It can get very, very cold. Not the best weather, probably not the best place that you want to live for a, you know, a whole NBA season. But at the same time, man, money talks volumes, you know what I'm saying? So if the Clippers aren't willing to give Paul George a max contract, you know, I think from what also I've been hearing, the holdup is basically the years. You know what I'm saying? Paul George isn't really necessarily tripping about the money. I think it's like $40 million a year for a 3-year deal they were offering him, maybe $45 million, something like that. But I think Paul George, he wanted a long-term, you know, 4-year, 5-year deal maybe, just because this, you know, this might be the last big contract that Paul George gets in his career, just due to the fact that he's like 33, 34. So maybe he's expecting to get a max contract from the Clippers, ideally in his head, right? And he's hoping maybe, you know, by the time he's, you know, 38, that, you know, by the time his contract ends, he can kind of just retire and ride off into the sunset into his hometown in LA. But, you know, that's where, you know, the negotiations come in when it comes to the Clippers and Paul George trying to get a contract together, because obviously something isn't clicking on either side right now. Paul George, I'm assuming he probably wants, you know, more years than he does necessarily money. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, if you get another year, but you're getting paid 40 mil instead of 45 mil, you're still making up a whole lot more money just off that last fourth year on that contract. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of understand where he's coming from. And honestly, if I'm just going to be completely honest with you guys, all my Clippers fans, all the people that have been watching this channel, even if you are not, you know, if I was giving Paul George some advice, I'd probably tell him to go to Philadelphia if he's trying to win a championship. You know what I'm saying? But if he's just kind of, you know, trying to coast, you know, just chilling in his hometown where his family's from, where he loves, you know, this is his hometown in LA, you know what I'm saying? So I also could see that side of things. But, you know, in my personal opinion, if Paul George wants to, you know, make the most of his championship, you know, run, you know, just if I was, you know, giving him advice, and if I was trying to convince him, you know, if you're trying to win a championship, man, Philadelphia is probably the best option to go to. You know what I'm saying? Out of all three of these teams, you know, between the Los Angeles Clippers, Orlando Magic, and the Philadelphia 76ers. And to me, I just feel like the reasoning for that would be is, you know, obviously out of all three of these teams, Joel Embiid is the best player out of all three of these teams on the Clippers, Magic, or 76ers. You know what I'm saying? When he is healthy, he is a MVP caliber player. And now I know what some of you guys may be thinking, you know, maybe, you know, Joel Embiid, he's just as injury prone as Kawhi Leonard. And honestly, I feel like for the most part, I would agree with you guys, but we can't just use what we just saw this past postseason as a reference. At least Joel Embiid, he may have been injured, he may have been banged up, but at least he was in the series playing. He was healthy enough to actually play. We can't really say that with Kawhi Leonard, although Kawhi Leonard did try to give it a go, I believe, in Game 2 and Game 3 of the first round, but his knee just would not, it just would not cooperate with him. You know what I'm saying? So maybe if you're Paul George, you're thinking, you know, Joel Embiid, I know he's a little bit injury prone. He's definitely injury prone, but he's not as injury prone as Kawhi Leonard. And even if he is, his ceiling is still higher. So I do understand Paul George going to the 76ers if he chooses to, if he's trying to win a title, because that automatically puts him back at that third option. He's no longer the third or the second to third option between him and James Harden. He's clearly the third option behind Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. You know what I'm saying? So that really just takes a lot of pressure off Paul George when it comes to trying to win a championship and showing up in the biggest moments. So I do understand that part for Paul George. And also, in this case, if the Clippers aren't trying to give him the money that he's wanting, why the hell would he not just go to a team that is going to give him the money in the Philadelphia 76ers that he wants, while also having more of a chance to compete for a championship? So at the end of the day, I personally cannot blame Paul George for if he wants to leave. But now we're about to get into my personal opinion about how I feel if we should re-sign Paul George or not. So let's get into it. But one more thing I did forget is, you know, a big thing I actually did not say at the beginning of the video is all this kind of really, I mean, obviously if you're the Clippers, you would like to get Paul George signed before James Harden, but James Harden is a whole other situation that the Clippers are going to have to deal with, because he's probably wanting, you know, a 3-year deal worth maybe $100 million, $110 million, something like that. So we're going to have to bring back James Harden as well, which is another factor into, you know, bringing back Paul George as well. Because, like, say Paul George walks for nothing and we also lose James Harden, then we're kind of fucked. All we have is an injured-ass Kawhi Leonard. So it's like, if Paul George does leave, the Clippers have to be certain that they are going to give James Harden the money that he wants. Because, listen, man, as Clipper fans, we all have our gripes and stuff about Paul George, but at the same time, man, if he does leave and walk in free agency for absolutely nothing, that's obviously terrible. That's worse than, you know, the other options, I guess, that we have. You know what I'm saying? Him coming back. I would much rather, you know, have Paul George back, you know what I'm saying, maybe not on a max and maybe not even on the more, you know, years than Kawhi Leonard, because I will say I kind of like that 3-year deal Kawhi Leonard signed, because, I mean, it's good for him and it's good for us, you know what I'm saying, because I don't want to sign him to a 4 to 5 year deal where it's like this motherfucker's hurt the whole 4 or 5 years, just like he was when we got him in 2019. So it's like, I would really like Kawhi Leonard and Paul George's contract to end roughly around the same time. You know what I'm saying? So potentially we could just let them go into the sunset. You know, I don't really expect Kawhi Leonard to play basketball after this 3-year deal. I really don't. I think his contract ends in 2027, if I'm not mistaken. And really, if this is just my personal opinion, what I've seen from Kawhi Leonard, I don't expect him to play. Like, he can't even stay healthy right now, and he's like 33, 34. So imagine when he's like 36, 37. Why would he continue to just destroy his body when he has kids and stuff, or a kid, I should say? So yeah, I just feel like it'd probably be in Kawhi's best interest to retire after this contract. That's why I kind of don't want Paul George to come back on a 4 or a 5-year deal. But if he did, I can't really be mad, because at the end of the day, this is one of my favorite all-time players. And I mean, he had, hey man, as much as you want to say about Paul George, he did get the Clippers to their first Western Conference Finals in franchise history. So, you know, I can't really blame them for, you know, wanting to bring him back. But from what it looks like right here, it looks like they kind of don't want to bring him back on the deal that he is expecting. With that being said, man, we're probably just going to have to see how this plays out over the summer. I know the Philadelphia 76ers are probably the biggest threat to getting Paul George, and the second behind that, other than the Clippers, is probably the Orlando Magic, which I actually would really love, because as most of you guys know on here that have been watching, man, I do like the Orlando Magic. They're probably one of my favorite teams in the league. But yeah, man, I just personally, I would like to bring Paul George back instead of just, you know, letting him go for absolutely nothing. I just think that would just be stupid as hell. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I just feel like, especially considering the fact that we don't have any draft picks till 2030. Like, you got to keep in mind, bro, we got 6 more years till that is, and we don't even got no more draft picks till then. So it's like we might as well. I mean, I don't think we're winning the championship. I think our championship window is closed. But if you want to remain competitive at least, then I feel like this is the best opportunity to do so. You know what I'm saying? Bring back Paul George. I mean, just give him what he wants. You know what I'm saying? He's helped us. You know, that's my guy, Paul George. Like I said, as much as I have to say about him personally, I mean, he's definitely underperformed in times we needed him most. Like, you got to think, bro. This motherfucker just averaged 19 points in a 6-game series against the Dallas Mavericks that Kawhi Leonard did not play. 19 points a game. Like, just let that sink in. And honestly, just by the sounds of that, I personally could not blame the Clippers if they didn't want to bring him back, just based off that. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no Kawhi Leonard, and you're telling me you didn't even average 20 points per game in a playoff series? Like, the best game that Paul George had in the first round was that 37-point game where he had 26 in the first half. And don't get me wrong, that shit was immaculate. I loved watching every second of that game. I'll rewatch it probably 2 to 3 times. But that's not enough, you know what I'm saying? Like, we need more, you know what I'm saying? So it is what it is, man. We're just gonna have to see what happens. But say we do bring Paul George back, I guess we're just gonna have to hope for the best, pray that Kawhi Leonard's healthy, so that puts Paul George back in that 2nd to 3rd option instead of having him be the number 1 option, because that just never seems to work out for us, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, I just wanted to come on here real quick, talk a little bit about this Paul George situation with the Los Angeles Clippers. Wherever he goes, man, I'm still going to continue to be a fan. But, you know, at the end of the day, I am a Clippers fan, so I kind of have to have our best interest as a team as a franchise instead of, you know, just an individual player. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, I really do hope you guys enjoyed this video. Man, if you did, make sure you hit it with a thumbs up. If you found it useful information on any type of way, make sure you hit it with a thumbs up, and make sure to comment below if you guys, you know, have any, you know, disagreements with me, or if you guys happen to agree with the points that I made. Let me know in the comments below. I really do appreciate y'all tapping into this video. But until next time, y'all, peace out and be smooth.
In the jungle like I'm Conan, count up with both hands, switch the flow like it was broken. I'm on the road, man, making plays just like DeRozan. I shoot my shot, and that shit wetter than the ocean. I brag a lot, but with the wind and come the boast in. I made a lot from them apartments that I sold, and he ain't make it up to college. So them streets where he enrolled in. I know I'm a scholar from the moments that I was exposed in.